Hey everybody, what's happening? Robert Phoenix here. It is 7:42. Thanks for hanging on. We've been putting together some new elements with the studio tonight. Let me do one thing here with the audio on the other side of this so that we don't get any feedback. And I'm not talking Jimi Hendrix feedback there. How was everyone? Thanks for waiting around. You may notice that there is a different kind of lighting thing going on here tonight. Quite possibly. Let's see who's in the old chatteroo. What do we have hanging out over here in the chat room? No, we don't want Blog Talk Radio. What do we have? Where are we? Let me get into the chat. There's Sally, there's Robin, there's Jennifer, there's Kate O, there's Lori, there's Shari. You're tardy for the party. Hey, I said 7:30 over on Facebook. It's 7:43. I know, but I've been working on this new studio here. Hey, Elan, he can. Elan, he can. Paula, there's Night Source. Anna, hello, Michael. Hi from Austin, or hello to Austin. Hi from Fredericksburg. Yeah, I got these lights. I bought these new lights. I can adjust the light a little bit, you know. How do you guys like the light? Are you digging the light tonight? There's a new light thing going on. Have you checked it out? There's Hannibal Loda. Hello, hello. Kind of feeling kind of under the weather. Eclipse. Light looks good. Thanks, Lucy. Man, yesterday I was wiped out. I was wiped out with that eclipse energy. Let me do this. Give me one sec here. I'm going to get into a hard streaming thing so I don't get caught in the switches with some wireless. Man, we were getting up to 21st century speed here. I got a few more things I'll be working on. I made a few investments so that I can be a little more representative and, you know, give something back in terms of production quality. Let's see what we got here. Yes, that's better. Hey, any New Year's resolutions out there? Anybody got any New Year's resolutions going on? Light makes me blush. Yeah, the eclipse is very intense. Very, very intense. Chris and Steve checking in. How about, are you guys into resolutions at all? Are you into resolutions? Are there things that you like to do at the beginning of the year? That was Rosie, by the way. She has the whiny. She has the whiny meow. Jasper has more of a, Jasper's more like a blues singer. He's more of a meow, meow. You know, Rosie's got the more kind of, you know, little petite little whiny meow. Let's see. Not this year. Not really. No, nope. Hello, Rhonda. So I have decided to give my, Lori says every day is a resolution. I have decided to give my liver and kidneys a rest for a few weeks, maybe a few months, just to give them a rest for a while. So I've been stocking up on a lot of mineral water. Yes. So mineral water and green tea. Those are my new beverages for the next few weeks, maybe a few months. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have plans for 2019, and I need my energies concentrated, focalized, localized, so I can accomplish a few things before they pull the plug on this show. And I'm not talking about this show. I'm talking about the big show, right? And I think it's really kind of important for people to think along those lines. You know, I mean, we live in a material universe. What is it you would like to do? What is it you would like to accomplish? Are there places you would like to go? Are there hearts you would like to touch? Are there projects you'd like to finish? I think these things are really important because I don't think we're going to be living in the same paradigm, you know, 2 to 3 years from now. Maybe it's better. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe we'll be all floating around in some ascended fifth dimensional state where all the cool people are hanging out in one alternate universe and all the assholes are in another alternate universe. Wouldn't that be great? I just hope I would make it over where the cool people are, because it'd be really a bummer if I wound up where the assholes were. I have to say, right? It'd be, But I think it's important for us. You know, we're in a very heavy Capricornian time, and Capricorn is the apex of materiality. That's what Capricorn represents. You know, we start with Taurus, we get into sort of the basement, right? The root, the raw materials. That's all Taurus. We get into Virgo. We get into production with Virgo. Virgo represents, you know, assembly lines, productions, those things that happen with the raw materials. And then we get to Capricorn, and Capricorn is the capstone. It is the manifestation of the physical process. And that's where we have things like decision-making and allocation of finances, and risk assessment, and all that stuff that goes along with Capricorn. And so we're living in a time right now where there's a ton of Capricorn. I mean, Pluto's in Capricorn. When it goes into Aquarius, we are making a phase shift. And we don't know where that phase shift is going to go. We're going to spin this bottle, right? Are we going to have universal basic income? Because that seems to be kind of a theme now that people are talking about, or at least beginning to bring up on places like Facebook. I was, this morning I got up really early and I got on my bike because I decided I want to get out. And some of you saw the picture of the chemtrails that they were spraying this morning. It was a beautiful sunrise. If you don't mind a little chemtrails fucking it up. So I decided to ride my bike, and I did something. I made a really good thing of coffee. I put it on my bike, and you guys are gonna laugh, right? This is like my new thing. This is my new sin. Let's put it that way. I rode my bike to a donut shop this morning, and I got one donut. I normally don't eat donuts, but I knew that I was going to ride the bike back, so it wasn't a big deal, right? So it's like I factored in the sort of the donut moment. And I'm sitting there and I'm having my coffee and I'm eating this donut, and it's really, I love watching people. You know, it's like and I live, I live in, hunting country. There's a lot of people that hunt here. And this morning I saw a father with his son. Man, he had a big truck, and he had a big, kind of ATV thing, and they were wearing camo. And there was a father and a son getting up going hunting early on a Sunday morning, right? I mean, that was their thing. And then, you could tell that they kind of had their shit together. And the boy was maybe about 10 years old, 11 at the most, and he was awkward. He had that awkward, I'm not yet kind of a teen yet, but I'm not a little boy kind of vibe to him. It was very interesting watching them. And just when they took off, he was in the back seat. He wasn't in the front seat with his dad. This was a truck that had front and back seat. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. So in a lot of ways, he's still very much a child. I digress just a little bit. So I sat there and I was on Facebook, and one of my Facebook friends, one by the name of Jan Woods, had this really, really long thread. And apparently there's this Asian guy. He's a younger guy, probably, mid 40s, and he wants to run for president. His platform is, $1,200 a month for everybody, universal basic income. This is the new program, right? This is what they're running. This is what they want to get in front of people. Of course, the Congress has Miss Ocasio-Cortez, and it's a very interesting kind of moment in time, because if you look at what's happening with the media clearly is promoting socialism, or promoting universal basic income. I mean, they're promoting this paradigm change, which kind of lines up with Pluto and Aquarius to some extent, right? And I've talked about this before. When Pluto hits Aquarius, it can go two ways maybe, right? One way is universal basic income, and you're in. But if you're in, you're always in for a price. There's always a price to pay for something like that. If you're getting $1,200 a month from the government, that's shit. That's nothing, right? Would you be able to have other income on top of that $1,200 a month? It's doubtful. It's doubtful. It's probably like, well, that's what you get, and you'll be moved into, one of your green cities, one of your green cattle pens. Anyway, it was a very long, very spirited thread. People were sort of promoting this idea of a universal basic income. And because there was a kind of this, spiritual, sort of philosophical viewpoint that was connected to universal basic income. Like, this is a paradigm shift, and there's plenty, it's abundant. We have to learn how to trust, not be so fearful, fill in the blanks. Just go ahead, just come on. Just that the water's warm, the water's fine. Once you get out in the deep end, you'll know how to swim. If you don't, somebody will save you, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're talking about. And at the same time, there are other people who are on that thread are like, well, hold on a second. You don't understand what's going on. If you go down that path, there's always a price to pay. And the price to pay is probably going to be some level of freedom. And you don't know what it's going to take or entail to make sure you get that measly $1,200 a month anyway. So it was a really great, great, great discussion. But it points to the future and where we're going and what it means to sort of be here now in a physical universe with physical capital that for the most part you can't control in this moment, where you can't make choices based on what you have, what you earn, and what you own. I'm not sure that's always going to be the case. I'm not sure it's always going to be the case. I mean, let's say, for instance, we get into a scenario where that does happen. Because if you look around, again, if you look around and watch what's going on with the media and who's being promoted and the ideas that are being promoted and the commercials that are being promoted, it's clear. It's clear that there is an agenda and a roadmap to a future that's being mapped out for everybody. It's clear. The commercials are not about self-reliance. The commercials are not about independence. Every time I turn on my TV, I'm watching Saquon Barkley take his cell phone and go like this to a cash register so it can get rung up. And now it's cool and feels oh so free, right? We're not seeing commercials unless it's the odd truck commercial where some guy is, jamming his truck somewhere and it feels and looks like he's doing something independent. But even those are fewer and further between now than ever before. So it's clear, right? It's clear what the sort of the roadmap is for the future. The roadmap for the future clearly has to do with some modified version of social Marxism, universal basic income, and kind of a Chinese American clone. To me, that's Pluto and Aquarius, and that's the dark side. And, there's going to be kind of a soft entry to that. Like, oh, guess what you get? Guess what you get if you get to play? Well, here's what you get. What do I have to do? Well, you just have to sign up for this and this and this. And, every few months you have to have a checkup. We have to make sure that you're, ticking on all levels, that your physical health and your mental health is, really in a place where you're living in an optimal sort of way so that, you're an investment in our system now. We're investing in you. We want you to be happy. We want you to be productive, because when you're happy, you're productive, our investment pays off. And then you'll feel better and we'll feel better and everybody will feel better, right? I mean, that's just sort of the soft entry. After a while, it's like, the drone lines up to you. Mr. Phoenix, you have not had your vaccination this month, right? I mean, that's sort of the more nightmarish version. Then all of a sudden they just fire one right in my third eye, right? They don't even take me out, just right there. Off they go. So the other model of that, which I've talked about, is more interdependence, right? It is more interdependent. And even if it's going to be interdependent, meaning you're kind of outside of that system, and I do think there will be two systems. I think there'll be two systems. And you're going to be either in or you're going to be out. If you're out, you're not going to be using the same kind of, monetary exchange we have now. I guarantee you that, okay? So the reason I bring this up is because, I don't know how much time we have left in this game, but we're dealing with the concrescence of physical materiality with Capricorn, right? This is it. This is the apex. Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, South Node in Capricorn. We've got enough Capricorn this weekend to, start a basketball team, like 5 planets, in Capricorn. So including the South Node. So this is important, right? This is important. And this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to up this game. Is one of the reasons why, I want to up my physical vehicle, because there are things I want to accomplish. And I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into what I want to accomplish. They're personal goals. At some point, you'll know about what they are, I'm sure. But I feel like it's really important. It's important for me, and I think by and large, it's important for us in our time in general, because there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that we're going to be able to do some of the things that we want now 2 to 3 to 4 years from now. And I'm not sharing this with you based out of fear. I'm sharing this with you based out of a sense of, you know, get on time, right? Get on time. And because the signs are there. The signs are numerous. And of course, the United States is going to have its Pluto return. And that's a game changer. It's a game changer for us. It's a game changer for the world. It's a game changer. Trust me. Now, there are always variables. There are wild cards in the system. Look what's happening in Paris. You know, I was online earlier tonight, and I was talking with somebody who frequents the show, and she told me that there are yellow vests in Tijuana. Yellow vests are now starting to show up everywhere. This is a global movement. Now, you can say maybe it's, you know, engineered, that's, you know, being managed by the Rothschilds, or, you know, maybe it didn't start that way, but, you know, they'll sure as hell take advantage of it and play traffic cop, whether it is or not. You know, it's just like when Trump was running for president. I said the important thing was the energy. It was the energy that was important. It's like, don't attach to him. You know, attach to this energy, because the energy is about change. The energy is about untying things. The energy is about breaking up patterns and forms. You know, the energy is about disassembling these structures. And that's what's been happening. Now, of course, there are people that want to bring in new structures in new forms, and that's part of the deal, you know, and it's a marketplace of ideas, theoretically. Okay, that's my little opening rant for tonight. Let me check in with you guys and see what's going on with you. Mandatory organ harvesting because you're healthier than some politician you're compatible with. Edward Reardon has an interesting RV on Q. Ani, God help us, had a thought that everyone here could suggest books to read, starting with Chris and Steve and Robert, with favorites. Would that help us all? A new moon today. Yeah, new moon. Yay. Yay. Yay, new moon. Cliff High made a video with Dolan. Very deep, deep woo. Well, Richard Dolan's really productive, isn't he? I feel like I have to keep up with him. It's like every day there's a new freaking Richard Dolan video. Richard Dolan with Cliff. Richard Dolan with Joseph Farrell. Richard Dolan with his lovely wife. Richard Dolan alone. Richard Dolan with Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, a lot of Richard Dolan out there. What else do we have? Agreed, it's creepy as hell. Read the West Penway papers. I don't trust the plan. Limited on income. When you take SS, keep you in poverty. Lived it. If that went all the way to the top, it would be different. It won't. No, it never goes all the way to the top. I was reading an interesting article tonight on on Fidel Castro's grandson. He's a freaking globetrotter. He's all over the place. He's in Bhutan. He's in Paris. He's in Fiji. He's all over the place. He's got an international Instagram account. See, this is what being a good social Marxist does. And in that arena, boy, you got to be strong. You got to be ruthless. You got to be ruthless. Heather's here. Hey, good. Hi, Heather. Nice to see you. You know what I noticed? You know who I follow on Twitter? I follow Robert Reich. Robert Reich. Now he's always going after Trump. He's always going after the Republican Party. Richard Dolan he's a writer, researcher. He's actually a really smart guy. And he has a publishing company. He lives in Arizona. And he's got an interesting little bookstore in Arizona. Anyway, Robert Reich, remember him? Used to be the Secretary of the Treasury. He's about 5'1". Okay. Now this is not about, you know, there are short people in this world, and he happens to be one of them. One day I was at this cafe just outside of University of California, Berkeley. In fact, right across the street. And hey, Joan, what's going on, Joan? There's my favorite dentist, Joan S. And so Robert Reich was there in this cafe. He was sitting at this table. I've told this story before, and I'm hanging out with a friend of mine. We're having a little coffee. He's sitting there with all these other academics. They're just sitting there. And they all look so glum. And every now and then somebody would say something, and the person would go, it was like, man, that is not a party I'd want to be at, right? So Robert Reich is about 5'1" or 2. He's always going after Trump. Always, 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 always. And Republicans, whatever. Never. It's like there's never any. Oh, you know what? He kind of did this right. There's a clear, line in the sand. Anyway, I went onto his Twitter feed last night, and I said, "Did you know that Hitler was 5'9", that Mao was 5'9", that Stalin was 5'5", that Bonaparte was 5'7", Lindsey Graham is 5'4"? Why is it that all these short people? Caesar was 5'5". What is it with all these short people? Because he was calling Trump a bully, right? And yet everybody under 5'9" has tried to fucking rule the world, basically, right? Hi, Kathy. Hey, what's going on? It's like, can you answer that for me, Mr. 5'1"? Sorry, I'm ranting a little. All right, hey, shall we get into some astrology tonight? You guys ready? You guys ready to cook it up here? I've got charts coming out of my ears to share with you tonight. All right. So what's going on? So what do we have here? Let's get into the chart of the moment. Hold on a second. I had a lot of fun charts tonight. Do you know that Elizabeth Warren is a Sun-Uranus conjunction person? Did you know that? I just got her. It's not her. There's no time with her, but she's got Sun at 0 degrees Cancer and Uranus at 0 degrees Cancer. She's got the same Sun-Uranus conjunction that Trump has, except in different signs. My Mars is conjunct her Sun and Uranus. I should not be in the same room with Elizabeth Warren. I don't think that would go very well based on my chart and hers. She's got Mercury in Gemini, and she has Mars in Gemini. That's like a split personality. She might be more split than Trump is, to be quite honest with you. And she has a Moon in Taurus. Stubborn. She's out there stumping today, man. She's out in Iowa getting her feet wet so she can jump in for the election. We've already had a Sun-Uranus conjunction president. We don't need another one. Okay, he's serving a purpose. We need somebody 4 years from now or 8 years from now that has a little bit of stability and form. Maybe I'll run for president. I was thinking about that today, throwing my hat into the ring, although I have too much of a checkered past. However, I was thinking, in all actuality, that we should start our own political party. We should start our own political party because I think that's where things could get interesting. Very interesting. You know what's happening now? The left is starting to control the narrative. They look back 2 years ago, and man, they got sucker punched, man. The left got sucker punched because there are all these alt-right people or alt-light people, the Cernoviches and the Posobiaks and the Gavin McInneses, the Laura Loomer, all these people sort of come out of the woodworks, right? Laura Loomer was a little bit later on the scene. Tommy Lahren, all these people. And the left didn't know what hit them. It was like there were these smart alecky, cocky, meme-making, wisecracking people on the right. And they dominated. The right dominated, the alt-right, the alt-light, whatever you want to call it. A couple different camps. They dominated, right? They dominated the internet. So the left has said, well, we're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to come up with our own force. And what they're coming up with now is their version of the alt-left. And the alt-left is going to be women, young women, ethnic minority women that are going to be like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this woman Tlaib who called Trump a motherfucker, Kamala Harris. This is the new wave. This is the next wave. And they're going to use these women to basically control the narrative. This is what's going to happen. So it's going to be very interesting because we're that's the reaction now from the left. They're like, okay, you've got these guys over here creating memes. Well, we're going to go over here and we're going to start calling presidents motherfuckers. So you top that. Where are you going next? You got to come in over the top with that, right? Just keep your eyes on this. Watch. You're going to see this. And this is going to be the control. Whoever controls the narrative basically wins. That's the way it is. It's kind of like he who wins gets to write history. Whoever controls the narrative on anything
is usually going to be the person that's going to come out victorious or on top. We're going to get what they need / want out of that transaction. And it may not always be true or right or just, right? Controlling the narrative doesn't have anything to do with the truth at times. It doesn't have anything to do with morality. It has to do with being able to create something that may or may not be true, and then put enough energy and enough numbers or enough things that pass as facts that look like it's true. And then somewhere down the line, even if it has to be disavowed, it's already been introduced into the system and people can begin to think about it and ponder and go, well, it must be true. Right? That's controlling the narrative. So that's a tactic. It's a big tactic. So what happens is that everybody wants to kind of pump up the volume to control the narrative. And the next thing you know, we're just shouting on top of each other and nobody's listening anymore, which is sad. But it's the way it is, right? It's where we are right now. All right, let's get into the old chart of the moment, shall we? Let's pull it on up here. Da, 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 da. Oh, by the way, all you Bears fans, my condolences. Rough end to that game. Very rough. So if we're keeping track of quarterbacks and astrology this weekend, the winners were Dak Prescott for the Cowboys, Leo, Andrew Luck for the Indianapolis Colts, Virgo, Nick Foles for the Philadelphia Eagles, Aquarius, and Philip Rivers for the Los Angeles Chargers, Sagittarius. Virgo, Leo, Sag, Aquarius. Those are your 4 winning quarterbacks for the playoffs. All right, let's get into a little screen share right now. And sec here. And we'll get into the chart of the moment. Here it is. The old chart of the moment. Right there. It's happening right now. And, you know, I actually took the time to put in Fredericksburg tonight versus my birthplace, and then have to awkwardly go back and change it. I'm getting there. All right. So we have Leo on the ascendant and the after effects of the eclipse. The moon has crossed over Pluto. We had some intensity, right? We had some real intensity. How were your dreams last night on the eclipse? Because the moon was moving into orb with Pluto last night. Pretty intense. I tell you, I woke up, I felt great. I felt really, really great. I felt relaxed and rested. And felt so good. And I rode my bike to get a donut. Anyway, this is kind of a transformational moon. And we've got, you know, a few more degrees. The gyre is widening. The orb is widening. 7 degrees. This is a powerful new moon right now. You know, I mean, what do you want to do with this energy? If you get off of this stream tonight, you may really want to think about, you know, what kind of emotional content you want to experience for the coming year, for the highest and best good, for the highest and best good of other people. You know, when that happens, you get, you know, it's like, we'll all run around, we're thinking about abundance, and a lot of us do abundance and manifestation. And yeah, and I know some people that are really good at it, man. Really, really good at it. And they've got, you know, living, breathing examples, and in a good way, not in kind of a narcissistic, I get everything I want kind of way. I know some people are really good at it. But there's also this part where, you know, allowing for the breath of creation, you know, the intention of God to come through and then fill out what it is that, you know, we believe we need or what we believe we want. Because a lot of times there can be even more. You know, we can be limited by the scope of what we think we're capable of or what we think we deserve. And I think if we all look at each other and really go inside, we can find areas in our lives that are small and truncated and, you know, maybe atrophied. And the reason why is because maybe we've never addressed them, or maybe we've just thought that this is just the way it is. This is how it's going to be. And I feel like we're in a time where that can really change. And, you know, can a series of moments, can the next 3 hours or 4 hours begin to change that? Maybe. You never know. You know, you never know. And I would say with this new moon where we are right now, that what you would probably want to really think about is long term, because Capricorn deals in long term. You know, what do you think would really satisfy you on an emotional level, you know, long term moving forward? Is it a sound, stable, steady relationship if you don't have one in your life? Is it some form of physical manifestation, more abundance, more money, more meaning in terms of what you do? Can it be all those things linked together? Well, here's a night. We've just passed through the eclipse, and we've got this energy now, which is it's profound. It's a profound energy. Hey, look, the moon in Capricorn is kind of austere. It's an austere moon, but in conjunction with Pluto, you get to transform that. Totally get to transform that. The moon looks like it's sitting right now on the south node. You know, so again, you know, the south node is, I think, you know, I like to hang out in the north node. I'm a north node guy, but there is some wisdom in the south node, and the wisdom is the areas of our lives that we may not feel really comfortable with, because you know we're not really supposed to, you know, spend a lot of time there. You know, get your butt over to the north node and start living. I mean, that's always been, you know, kind of, you know, my maxim with the north node. There are other astrologers who have different takes on it. Some are about, well, you got to integrate the south node. Well, I've tried that. It doesn't really work. I'm just telling, for me, it just doesn't work, right? You know, for me, the south node is, when you try to integrate the south node, it's not by putting the south node ahead of the north node. That's like putting the cart before the horse. It's not going to work. It's like trying to shoot an arrow with the tip of the arrow, you know, brought back by the bow. And what is it? The quiver, right? You know, the string, the gut. I mean, that's not how it works. So you can integrate, but you're never going to integrate by leading with the south node. It's never going to work. Sorry, I've tried it. I'm a living, breathing example. Living, breathing example. You work the north node, you get good at it, and then you allow the influence of the north node to trickle down to the south node, and the south node sort of has its own kind of self-regulating process. You get better at what you do, and you build up sort of this weak, vulnerable area in your life, because that's really what it is. Been there, done that, right? That's what it is. So what about where the node is now? The node is in, south node's in Capricorn. So we're all experiencing that. We're all experiencing the south node in Capricorn. Well, that means that our vulnerability right now is connected to things like father figures, politicians, bankers, Wall Street, corporations, authority in general. You know, this is the Achilles heel of everybody's life. Look at the shutdown, right? The shutdown is a manifestation of the south node in Capricorn. That's what's happening. It's not working. He's not working, okay? The true node, or north node in Cancer, true node in Cancer, you know, it's like, okay, well, people are talking about, well, the toilets are stinking up at the national parks. Okay. But tell you what, if you really like your national, I'm nowhere near a national park. I'm nowhere near one. But if I was, and I really love the national park, I'd go in and I'd, you know, clean up some garbage or pick it up or whatever, right? I mean, these are our parks. If you're really into it, if you're really, really into it, you want to use those parks, go there, you know, take charge. Say, hey, we're going to do this. Don't worry about it. We got this. We got this. Now, of course, the people in the parks aren't getting paid, which is a real bummer for them. You know, it's like, that sucks. But, you know, this land is your land. This land is my land, right? I mean, we may as well go clean it up. But we're dealing with that south node right now. And that's the Achilles heel. And so here the moon is sitting right on that south node. So from an emotional perspective, right, what does it bring up for people? Does it bring up things like, you know, the failure of the father? Your father wasn't around. Your father didn't give you a swing set or a pony, or, you know, is that sort of like kind of out there floating around? You know, last night I spent some time on Twitter, and this one guy was talking about motherfucker, because a woman said, we're going to impeach that motherfucker. Talab, is that how you said it? Talab. Boy, when they found her, She couldn't get out. She was on her way to the White House, or and boy, she couldn't get out of there fast enough. Holy shit. She was like, they had all these reporters, and she's, ducking under the emergency tape. Boy, a lot of courage there, huh? It's okay to be real boastful and filled with a lot of energy when you're around a bunch of people that support and love you in your own backyard. But man, you get out into a different ocean, you're swimming with different fish, you're out of there. Anyway, what was I talking about? So we're dealing with, oh, sorry about the motherfucker thing. Okay, so there was this guy on Twitter, he says, yeah, we'll stop saying motherfucker if you take care of the motherfucking water in Flint, Michigan. And you take care of the motherfucking banks who are ripping us all off. And you make sure that the motherfucking kids at the border aren't dying. And blah, 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 right? It's like, you know what? I'll tell you what you do. Why don't you get involved with your community and make sure your water doesn't go the same route as Flint, Michigan? How about that? Why don't you go take care of your water? And if you feel so inclined, get involved with Flint's water. But, you want to be proactive, right? You're a citizen. Theoretically, do something about it. Do something about it. You don't like the big banks? Don't bank with them. Go find another bank. Go find a small bank. If enough people said, fuck the big banks would be out of business. Or at least some of them would be, right? But it's people always want to put it onto somebody else. See, this is the fallacy of the South Node. And we're going to see that there is no somebody else. The people that are there to basically, gin the system. And the system is not meant to be efficient. Not at all. It's not meant to be efficient at all. It's a Kafka-esque labyrinth that has become extremely bloated and lame. Okay, that's the South Node in Capricorn. And the only way that we're going to get through this is if we go over to that true node in Cancer and begin to do more things for ourselves. In order to do that, you're going to need your health, you're going to need your physical energy, and quite frankly, you're going to need support in some family and some community. Okay. So the moon right now sitting on that South Node conjunction, right, wide conjunction with Pluto, theoretically could allow us to transform our emotions, our attitudes around, theoretically, people that are going to take care of things for us, right? This is the South Node. The South Node is, to some extent, these authority figures in Washington or at a state level, it is breaking down. It's breaking down. And you could say Trump is part of this. Yeah, possibly. It would have broken down anyway. It would have broken down anyway, because this is the way of things. Even if Hillary had been elected, the chaos may be different, but we'd still be going through chaos, I guarantee you. Right? We'd still be going through chaos. So anyway, there it is. You have this opportunity now for the next few hours. Maybe you get off of here, you go out, you look at the sky, or maybe you just hang out with yourself or people that you love or you're with, and you can sort of drop into a space. Because this is what this moon is about. It's about dropping into a space. And it's a space that can be very deep and profound. How will you become self-sustaining if you need to? That's the moon, right? The moon takes care of things. It takes care of people. And in Capricorn, it has vision. It looks into the future. Because that's what Saturn does. Saturn looks into the future. All right, what else we have here? There's our friend at the midheaven, Taurus at 15 degrees. Uranus getting ready to move back into Taurus. Well, that'll be interesting, won't it? I mean, we've had some weird money stuff happening. Started off here at 2 degrees, went retrograde to 28. And we saw the markets just completely tank and decelerate. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward with Uranus and Taurus. Personally, I think I'm going to buy myself some metals, not a bunch, just a little, tiny bit, keep around. I think everybody should have a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the cryptos, as Uranus moves back into Taurus. My prediction is that we're going to get into sort of the, how do I say this? The commoditization of cryptocurrencies. I think they're going to, you know, you're going to see cryptos become brought into the mainstream. Okay. Somebody somewhere is going to link up a freaking credit card with a crypto, and that's going to be a game changer. And I think that's going to happen with Uranus and Taurus. And keep your eyes on Ripple XRP. That could be, you know, one of the movers and the shakers. But it feels to me like the cryptos are going to be kind of lassoed in and brought into the mainstream with Uranus and Taurus, because all the big money has sort of been depleted there, right? So, but I'm not sure we're going to see a big boom again. Not like we saw, what, 2 years ago? Holy smokes, man. It was like the digital gold rush. And I know people that got in and they couldn't get out. It was like, you know, they were millionaires for a brief moment in time. I mean, they got some of it out, don't get me wrong. But, you know, they were just, they didn't have the, because try to get out $1 million through one of these exchanges. It's not easy. It's not easy. Some people did, though. Some people did really well. Okay, we've got Mars and Aries. I like Mars and Aries. It's squaring off against Mercury right now. And tomorrow, Mercury will be at 3. So this Mercury-Mars square is going to be kind of, you know, there's going to be a dance with Mercury-Mars for the next few days. You know, if you do go into the workplace tomorrow with a Mercury-Mars square, you may you may want to take a few breaths before you get into barking orders. You know, that is a very quick, sharp sort of tongue with the Mars Mercury square. Although Mars does trine Venus and does trine Jupiter, so you know it's not all bad, right? It's not all like fire and brimstone. There's some release points there. Mars square Saturn, and Mars is going to get closer and closer to that Saturn square over the next couple of weeks, and I think that's going to result in extreme anger against the government. That's how long will it take for the yellow vest thing to hit here, by the way? How long will it take? What's the first city to go yellow vesty? You see, the yellow vest thing isn't like, it's not kind of a lefty thing. You know, the yellow vest thing is more along the lines of, you know, sovereignty, because there's nationalism. The French want their government back. You know, they don't want to be in the EU, or at least that's what the general consensus is. So that's not really something that plays really well here with the media at this point in time. But I wonder how long it'll take before we start to see some yellow vests pop up. I'll say in about a week. I say in a week we'll start to see yellow vests. Where they'll be, who knows? I know it won't be New York City. Maybe they'll have yellow vests in I don't know. Where would a yellow vest city be? Detroit. Nah, Detroit's become soft. Not Texas. Texas doesn't do stuff like that. Texas just wears camo. We'd have camo vests in Texas. That's what we'd have. Let's see what else. Mercury is in trine with Uranus. Yes, it's a nice trine, actually. So if you like to speak or sharing information, it's actually a really good aspect. By the way, I had a client today. You guys might find this interesting. So this client has Mercury and Saturn. Mercury at 11, Saturn at 12, and her vertex at 22, Capricorn in her 5th house. And she's a coaching client, and she wanted a session very quickly because she had something she really had to deal with. And a lot of times you think that people have these major crises, like somebody's dying, they lost their job, somebody's sick, you know, somebody, you know, left them, got in accidents. It could be more existential than that. Normally, this is what happens, right? So this one was, this person had kind of met somebody and had not felt like the flicker and flame of attraction and love for 10 years, and was trying to figure out whether or not they could trust it, right? So she's got these planets in her 5th house, which is the house of Leo, right here, right? House of Leo. So even though Capricorn is sort of the ruler of that house in her chart, she has a little tiny splash of Aquarius at the beginning, but it's mostly Capricorn. You know, Capricorn's not given over to like, you know, huge gushing fountains of effusive feeling, right? That's not what Capricorn does. It's very slow, very measured, very methodical. But here comes Saturn, right? Saturn, bang, hit her Venus. And she had this encounter with this person. And this person went out of their way to connect with her, right? It's very interesting. So I'm bringing this up because it's kind of a bit of a lesson in action in some ways. When Saturn hits Venus in a chart, if you're in a relationship and Saturn is conjuncting Venus in your chart, doesn't matter what sign it's in, there's a really good chance that that relationship has to come under some level of scrutiny, and that you have to look at where that relationship has been, where you are, and where you want to go. It does not mean the end of a relationship. It simply means that the relationship has to come under this kind of brighter light around the purpose and the meaning of the relationship. Sometimes relationships can be edified and get stronger under a Saturn-Venus conjunction. Sometimes they don't. In which case, the relationship and the contract that's related or connected to that relationship won't be renewed, because that's the nature of Saturn-Venus conjunction. You're dealing with the renewal of a contract, basically. It does not sound very romantic, I know, but it's true. Now, if you're not in a relationship and Saturn hits your Venus, well, that's a whole different thing, right? Because you're a free agent, you're open. And so people that you meet during a Saturn-Venus conjunction can wind up playing very powerful roles in one's life. Now, this person does have the South Node also going through her 5th house. So I said, it's great. Feel the feelings. Feel the feelings. You know, allow Saturn to come in. Light that house up. You know, and by the way, when people have either Saturn in their 7th house natally, or Saturn going into their 7th house later in life, right? People who have those aspects can experience really powerful, profound, and deep relationships, even later into life. It's possible. Yes, I know. I had a client one time who had a Saturn transit going through their 7th house, and they were in their 70s and they got married and said it was the best relationship they've ever had. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So Saturn crossing Venus has kind of a similar effect, right? So I said, you know, allow for that, allow for those feelings to come through. And I also noticed that, you know, transiting true node was in her 11th house in Cancer. And I said, but you also have to maintain a level of friendship and being connected in that realm. You know, allow the friendship or the camaraderie to nurture you as well, right? So working sort of both angles. But, you know, she also has her vertex there in the 5th house, and Pluto's just 2 degrees away from her vertex. And I just think something good is going to happen in this person's life. All right, let me check in with you guys in the chat room. We're going to get into a few other charts here. See what y'all are talking about. See, I'm talking like a Texan now. See what y'all are talking about. Let's see what we have here. What do we have? Barnabas Collins is okay with fire. What do we have? Oh, we got a lot of comments. Democrat Party equals clown shoes. What else we have? I love the sky minus chemtrails. Me too. Boy, we got a lot of comments here tonight. You got 110 people watching. Okay, anti-globalist, not on the West. Boy, we got a lot going on. Look at the comments. I feel like I'm watching Nathan Stoltman's program now. These things are flying fast and furious. This is great. I love it. I love it. You guys are having a good time. All right, slow down a little bit. Christine says the elites created the drama in France through financial instruments. Yes, they're using it to manifest the agenda. Not hopefully the LFS will change anything. Well, you know, we'll see. One of the things that I did cover, and this is what Heather and I talked about, is France is going through its Chiron return from the 1968 revolution. Now, whether or not that changed anything, well, that remains to be seen as well. But this revolutionary energy comes around 50 years, every 50 years for France. So I believe that it is a spirit that is and has been brewing inside of people for a while. Now, will there always be a Judas goat? Will there always be a shepherd that is willing to lead people into sort of a new version of the Matrix. Of course, and I think the sooner we understand that, the better off we are. But again, the energy is palpable, the energy is real, and what you do with it, well, that's up to you. That is up to you. I was wondering if Bannon has influenced Yellow Vest. I think Bannon has influenced some shit in Europe. Bannon figured it out. Bannon's a Sagittarius, and he would do better in Europe than he would in the United States. That's the nature of Sagittarius. And he's got Jupiter. I think Bannon is born, what is it, December 15th? So he's going to have Jupiter conjuncting his sun. This will be a banner year for Mr. Bannon. That's my sense. Okay, let's get into some charts. I plucked a bunch of charts last week that I didn't get into, but let me see if I can. And I got all these folders on my desktop. Hold on. Let's see what we have here. So I can find these things. Okay, that's not it. I just need to take a nice deep breath. By the way, we are 4 classes into thinking astrologically and beyond. It's been a really, really, really good class. And there's about 38 people that are into it and doing it every week. Okay, we have here. That's not it. Let's see. Oh. Interesting. No, these are different ones. I'll just play a commercial now. I wish. Let's try this one. Okay, I know they're here somewhere. I feel like a eccentric professor. Hold on one second. I know they're here somewhere. I just have to find my papers. Why don't we do this? I do have some charts handy. I do have some charts. What is this? That's the eclipse chart. All right, let's play a game. I used to do this a lot over on Facebook. And let me see. Hold on a sec. Let me do this. Let's play a game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a chart up, and you guys are going to get interactive. And you're going to tell me, number one, oh, here's a chart. This is, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Okay, let's do this. Here we go. Let's start with this one. Here we go. No, don't want that. Okay. All right, so I decided to put China's chart together with the US. So this is China's chart right here with the US. China's on the outside. So China incorporated 1st of October, theoretically, right? 1949, this is when Chairman Mao said, we're now China. We're now Communist China, 3:01 p.m., October 1st, 1949. So what would that make China? Let's see, 1950 is the year of the tiger. So that would make China, what, like a rabbit? It's a rabbit country, right? Because 12 years later, that would be, hold on, 61. No, that ox, China's an ox. Yes, am I right? 50, 12 years from 50 would be 62. So yeah, China's an ox. They're in it for the long haul. China is an ox. How about that? So here we go. Here's China. Libra Sun, Sun conjunct Neptune. And then here we have Mercury, Neptune conjunction. The United States has Saturn in Libra. We have to deal with China, right? We have to deal with China. We have to deal with China in a very realistic sort of way. Because if we don't deal with China, we're not honoring Saturn conjunct Neptune. Now, the other thing too is our Saturn helped commercialize and industrialize China. It's exactly what it did. We did trade deals with China. Of course, Nixon, who's a Capricorn, right? What's the rule of Capricorn? Saturn. Nixon brought China into the 20th century, and that was going to set up manufacturing, which would then be accelerated over the next couple of decades, with it hitting maximum acceleration during the Clinton and Bush era. So our Saturn actually helped China. We helped build China. We helped build China. I mean, really think about it. You know, it was our companies like Walmart. I mean, whatever you think of these companies, right? These are American companies. We helped build that country. They actually have some, I wouldn't say debt, you know. They have the debt. We have to pay the debt that we owe to them. Isn't that interesting? But of course, those were theoretically private institutions, not the country itself. But we did industrialize China. Look at Saturn's right there. But with Neptune on Saturn, there's probably a lot of things that, of course, we don't know about, and what's gone on behind the scenes. Trade deals that might have necessarily not been on the up and up. Hello, Clintons, right? Most favored nation trading status. And of course, we have all these planets in Cancer, and they're squaring off against all these planets in China, these Libra planets that China has. So they're, cardinal signs. And, Cancer is I love Cancer. It's a great sign. I keep saying that Cancer is one of the most underrated signs. But one of the things that Cancer has an issue with is it holds on to things. Like Cancer is a sign that's kind of a hoarder. I'm sorry, I know there are Cancers out there in the chat room, but it's a sign that hoards a little bit. Wants to feel safe, wants to feel secure, whether it's money or whatever. And it's not bad. It's not a bad thing, right? But from kind of a global perspective, it's talking about globalism. And I'm all about making sure that your foundation is really, really good. But the way that we've gone about like dealing with resources is, we've employed Pluto over here to be the hammer so that we can have resources and we can have more and have more and have more. China, on the other hand, has, especially recently, I bet we could look at where the last Saturn transit was for China. And which was what, it was like 2009 through 2012. And that's when Saturn was transiting through this part of China's chart. China was having its Saturn return when Saturn was in Virgo prior to that, which would have been 2006 to 2009, roughly, right? So, but what China's done now is China goes out into the world and wants to build all these agreements. And they have agreements, and they're building these trade agreements with, Israel and countries in Africa, even South America. They're basically making these cards. They're like, total ID cards for Venezuela to track everything. The Venezuelans want to make sure that they can control their people, which ultimately every country is going to have, right? Or at least try to initiate and introduce. Well, China's one that's making them for Venezuela. What do we do in Venezuela? We want to poison that motherfucker, Maduro, right? We want to, we send somebody from Cuba to take him out. So from Guantanamo. This is the difference, right? This is the difference between these are clashing styles. China's into building agreements. We're into, more resources, but leaning heavily on Pluto in order to get those resources and keep them. It's a very different style set, right? So what we have here is we have Chiron right we're very close to the ascendant of the US. And so this is the kind of the wounded part in our chart, or where the wound shows up, and it's with China. And they're a foreign country. So we're dealing with this sort of, chirotic wound. That's, what are we going to do? What's this country going to do with it? We'll find out. If you look at where, China's 10th house is, this is where Jupiter is right now, China's chart. So Jupiter is in a very powerful place in the Chinese chart. They're expanding. They're growing. That's where Sagittarius is. They're growing out in the world. Again, I'm using the Sibley chart. Some people don't use the Sibley chart. I do. So we have the United States growing here with Jupiter in the first house, right? Which is sort of the identity, right? The identity. So they're growing in a business sense. They're growing in a business sense. We're growing and grow. We'll see. We're expanding. We're expanding. We're moving outwards, theoretically, right? With Jupiter in the first house. But what are we expanding towards? What are we moving towards? Is it personal philosophies? Is everybody going to try to, be truthful and right, just like everybody tried to be woke with Uranus and Aries? My sense is that this represents, to some degree, right, sort of the people in some ways, right? We've got a few houses, different houses that represent the people. We got the first house, the sixth house, which are the workers. We've got the fourth house. Again, this is the collective emotional value. Up here, we have our social values and the world at large, right? 11th house, where our groups reside. But this is sort of the identity. So with Jupiter and Sagittarius here, I think people are going to want to break out, right? Want to expand. They're going to want to expand their horizons. I read this really interesting article, just skimmed over it briefly. Something like 67% of the people in this country want to leave the country, which is rare. I mean, if that's true, right, that's like Jupiter and Sagittarius in the first house. Wants to expand, move beyond sort of whatever these demarcations or borders of the chart are represented by, the chart itself, right? But China's in a different place. They're in global expansion mode. This is about the personal philosophy of the people that live in this country, okay? But we are linked with this country, China. Look at here. This is technology, right? We have Uranus right here. We have kooky relationships in the United States. Uranus right here in Gemini. What is it doing? It goes right up here through Saturn. This is where our technology goes, right here. Partnership, right up there, right? Bada bing. So what is Trump saying right now? He tells Apple, who is being guided by what's his name? Cook? Steve Cook. I call him Cuck. Steve Cuck. I know, I'm a little evil there. He's saying, bring your company back to the United States. Manufacture your iPhones here. Don't manufacture them in China. So this is like Jupiter in the first house, right? Bring it on home. Bring it back here, motherfucker. Would it be funny if Trump said that about Steve Cook? What's his name? Steve Cook? I think it's Steve Cook, right? No, his name. Yeah, Steve Cook. What if he said at a press conference, and Steve Cook, motherfucker, bring that iPhone business back here, bitch. What do you think the left would do? Oh. Well, the right wouldn't dig it that much either. I could just, David Gergen. Anyway, that's Jupiter in the first house, right? It's like expand with the identity, bring it back. China's out here, man. They're belting and roading it. One belt, one road, Jupiter, 10th house. But that's where the technology goes. You see that right there? Contracts. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows how else or what else? The interesting relationship with Neptunes and Saturns. So our good friends, in China have Saturn in Virgo. Of course they do. Of course they do. And it's in square with Uranus. Oh, look at that. Uranus is the upstart. Saturn takes its time. It's its time. You know, I don't think they cross T's and dot I's in Chinese characters. Whatever it is, they do. But they're biding their time. And we have Neptune here, which is conjuncting our Neptune, conjuncting their Saturn, right? And Saturn in our ninth house, or this country's ninth house, is kind of a thorn in the side. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Like, yeah, we got to deal with that Saturn up there. They're out there, ninth house, making our lives a little bit more difficult than we'd like. But the relationship between both Saturn and Neptune here, and Neptune and Saturn here, is indicative of things that are going on that we don't know about and that we can't see, and that there are agreements probably in place that go all the way back to, you know, when Mao sat down and, you know, Mao never bathed. Do you know that? He never bathed. He never bathed. You know what he did all the time? Got massages. He got massages. Could you imagine being one of the massage therapists that had to work on Mao? You know, that, by the way, that was kind of a strategy that Mao had. Because if he smelled really bad and you had to sit down and meet with him, right, it would be this visceral kind of assault on your senses. And then you had to negotiate with this guy, right? It was like that was his, you know, that was his infantry. Anyway, he never bathed, but he got massages. He was very, very, very big into massages. You see, that's what happens with basic universal income or universal basic income. You could have somebody who never bathes. Maybe it's Al Gore, and then you have to give him a massage. Could you imagine that? Well, you're getting your $1,200 this month. I know, but Mr. Gore, you haven't showered in over 3 months. I know, there's a thing called global warming. I can't shower. I'm saving the planet. Now, please, don't forget to take care of my second chakra. It's really important. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here we've got so it's just different styles, man. Really different styles. And there Uranus, look, there's Uranus on Venus. Again, that's technology. That's technology. Is there war in this chart? Can we see war? Is there going to be war going down? I don't know. You know, their true node, this is interesting. Their true node is conjunct this country's Chiron. And China has been making some waves that we're a little vulnerable. And I guarantee you, it's this Chiron and Aries. Strength of troops, division at home, right? If you're the Chinese, you're sitting back and at some point, we got to make a move on these people. We really, I mean, if they just keep fucking up and they just keep losing their minds, you know, and they really do think that social Marxism and universal basic income is a really good thing, we got to make a move on these people. And that would be right here, the true node, right on Chiron. Right on, you know, it's interesting. We armed the Chinese during their war. Of course we did. Let's see what else we have here. Boy, they got that Pluto-Mars conjunction. That's intense, man. That's in their descendant, right? This is their house of relationships. You don't fuck with the Chinese with contracts. That Mars-Pluto conjunction, that's proud. But the good news is we got a sextile with Saturn. And our true node, or the true node for this country, is very close. There's a lot of really interesting kind of interstitial points. And clearly, there's money down here. Look at that. Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And China has an Aquarian moon. And by the way, so does the United States. We both share Aquarian moons. Maybe that's where the universal basic income. This is it right here, right? This is the wedding of the future of the two countries. This is the new age. The two Aquarian moons. kind of makes sense in some ways. I'm not promoting it, but I could certainly see where with the two Aquarian moons that there would be some kind of, you know, systemic merger at some level. Very interesting. So they have the moon on their ascendant. The Aquarian moon is on the Chinese ascendant. That's really detached. You know, that's like cold as ice, man. That Aquarian moon right on the ascendant. And you know, that also, I think, in a lot of ways speaks to what they've been doing and going to places like Central Africa and hanging out and bringing these guys who are, you know, the warlords or whoever's running a certain region. They bring them back over to China and they school them in, you know, politics and the Chinese style of business. They're smart that way. They're smarter. I would say on that level, they're smarter than this country. They've got a very different kind of methodology. They're smarter that way. We've just been into regime change. We've used Pluto too much as a hammer, and it's not done. It's not, you know, it's not done well for us. Let's put it that way. It's not worked that well. I mean, maybe we've had cheap oil for a long time, but ultimately, you just do so many things over and over again. You're gonna build up some real bad fucking karma and some real toxicity. So anyway, they had a very different style, right? And they have Jupiter in Capricorn. So they're going to be going through their Jupiter return next year. That'll be an interesting time. And we've got this Mercury opposition to their Jupiter. Again, I think that's ideas and brain drain. But I feel like what's really interesting is that, you know, we had Uranus here on Chiron. So whereas our Chiron, US Chiron is at 20. So a couple of years ago, we had Uranus on Chiron. And that's when I think there was a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff going on. And I think it was just like kind of the run up to the Trump election. It was very intense, you know, it was very, very intense. Super intense. We're going to have the United States is going to have its Chiron return. Happens every 50 years. The last time it was it wasn't 1968. It was around 1975, roughly 75, 76. It might have been 75, right around the bicentennial, right around there. Right. So every 50 years it comes wheeling around. Just trying to think if there's anything that would indicate. Well, this is going to be very interesting because we're dealing with the Mars cycle right now, right? And Mars is right about here. About here. In about 3.5 weeks, this Mars is going to be right here. Now, at some point, right, Mars is going to square Pluto. That's a biggie, transiting Pluto, which is right over here, right? Transiting Pluto, by the way, looks like it's China has Jupiter at 22 degrees. So this is a massive push for them, man. That Saturn-Pluto conjunction that we're talking about, right, at 20 degrees, is going to be right near China's Jupiter. I mean, that could be massive wealth for China. Massive wealth. 12th house, total behind the scenes. Pluto's in their 12th house right now. There's planning going on. I'm telling you right now, man, there's planning going on. There's big time planning going on behind the scenes in China. And when Pluto hits their ascendant, this country is going to change the world. I don't know where it's going to go, for better or worse, but it's going to change the world. But it's all happening right now. They're dealing with a very long plan with Saturn's here too. Saturn is right about there, right? Just coming into its 12th house. So what they're looking at is they're looking at the last 30 years of their country, what they've accomplished, what they've done, and they're assessing everything. They are in deep assessment mode, super deep assessment mode. And at the end of 2020, they're going to put something into action, big time, big. really big economically. They're working on something even maybe bigger than One Belt, One Road. They apparently put somebody on the moon recently. Did you see that? They went to the moon. Do you think they really went to the moon? I don't know about that. But here's Mars. So keep your eye on Mars. Keep your eye on China. Relations with China over the course of the next 3 to 4 weeks could get very interesting. And they have been talking tough lately. They certainly have been talking tough. Do I think we're going to have a war in the next 3 to 4 weeks? Sure hope not. Because I think that the Chinese don't want to go there yet. They don't want to, because they don't want to deplete their resources, right? I mean, they know if they got into a war with the United States, their One Belt, One Road thing, they'd have to kind of forget about it. And that's where they really want to go. So a lot of the Sturm and Drang about, we're going to take your boats out and stuff like that. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But here's what I do think could happen. Supposedly, the Chinese owned a ton of land. And, when we went through that crisis with the debt, they supposedly bailed us out. Well, they got all those properties. China owns a shitload of properties in this country now. And, we've got, Uranus has been here, right? It's been here in the fourth house, this country. Heat, fire, homes, directed energy weapons. We might see some more of that. Who's really behind it? But I don't think we're going to see a war. China's got to complete this One Belt, One Road thing, and these people are too calculated. The Chinese, the government is too calculated. They're not going to do that. They're not going to disrupt their master plan by, taking on the United States. Now, maybe afterwards, maybe. But I think we're involved in something much more economic than anything else, and psychological as well. All right, let me get out of here and see what you guys have to say about where I've been astrologically. Bring it back up here. Let's see, perfume invented to cover on Al Gore, no war. Yeah, they've got too much going on. China sees us as weak and fat with terrible. That is true. Mao loved to swim with young girls. Yes, he swam. Oh, he swam a lot. Okay. He didn't shower though. Joe Lieberman supposedly lobbying for telecom ZTE. Aren't they the firm working on smart IDs in South? Yes, they are. Good call, Cato. I'm not buying the moon story. What story is that? Oh, the moon story. Yeah, I don't think so either. Do you remember the Chinese drywall fiasco that made so many Americans sick? Oh yeah, that's right. They sent a probe. Hey, there's Adam. Hey, Adam, nice to see you. They sent a probe to the dark side of the moon. They found Roger Waters there. He was flipping everybody off. China invested early in Africa. That's right, they sure did. Somebody's been setting fire to Japan's ships. Oh, interesting. Very, very interesting about that. Yes, ZTE is working on the smart IDs in Venezuela. Very good call. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna buy. I don't think the war thing is gonna happen. But they've got to figure out this One Belt, One Road. But I'm telling you though, man, when Pluto, they got stuff going on in that 12th house. They're putting things together in a big way, really big way. And when Pluto hits their ascendant with that moon in Capricorn, moon in Aquarius, look out. Okay, there was a chart I wanted to bring up here with you folks. You nice people. You are the best chat room that I've seen. Truly, truly great chat room. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you guys here on every Sunday night. And, Monday through Friday is not bad either. Here's a chart that I wanted to pop up today. All right, so this is this little sports thing. Since we're working with football today, well, at least the playoffs. This is Nick Foles' chart. And Nick Foles is kind of amazing. You know, they call him Saint Nick, and he's had these magical runs the last couple of years in Philadelphia. And I was trying to figure out, well, where's the magic in his chart? Like, where, you know, what's going on? Wait, why is Nick Foles? Why does he do so well right around this time of year? Well, it's because he's got this massive stellium in Capricorn, and he tends to do really, really well during playoff season. Like, stuff just kicks in during playoff season. But I think there's more to it than that. By the way, he doesn't have, he has no fire. This Nick Foles has no fire in his chart. And if you watch him and you look at him, he's not the most fiery individual. The word I would use would be like laconic. You know, he's not a lot rattles Nick Foles. But he's very smart. He has Mercury in Aquarius. So he's a Sun-Mercury conjunction, which means he can process information very, very quickly in an air sign. And when you're a quarterback in the NFL, it's a really important attribute. Very, very important attribute. And when Mercury, this is called Promethean Mercury. This is when Mercury is ahead of the sun. Epithean Mercury is when Mercury is, no, I take that back. This is, my bad. This is Epithean Mercury. And Promethean Mercury is when Mercury is behind the sun. And that's when the individual is leading through experience. And they experience first, and then they process information on the back end. That is Promethean Mercury. Epithean Mercury is the opposite, where Mercury is in front of the sun. And so the person filters everything through the mind, and then they have their experience, right? The sun is out front when it's Promethean. So he's filtering, he's working, processing information, and then acting on it. And he's got 0 degrees, sun in Aquarius, and his Mars is at 0 degrees Taurus. And people that have Sun-Mars squares are battlers. They're fighters. People with Sun-Mars squares are fighters. And they may not always be like, you know, street fighters or MMA people, but they don't give up. People with Sun-Mars, it takes them a while, right, to understand and channel the Sun-Mars square. And he's got this, you know, fixed sign. You know, this is not your average Sun-Mars square. It's a fixed sign Sun-Mars square. So, you know, once he figures something out, or once he gets, you know, into kind of a goal-oriented sort of mentality with that Sun-Mars square, it's, you know, it just keeps, like he did that tonight. He just kept, they weren't the best. They weren't the best team tonight. He might not have been the best player on his own team tonight. But he kept plodding away. And by the end of the game, they won the damn game. The other thing, too, is Nick Foles is very religious. He's very religious. Like, he almost quit football to become a minister. And he has this true note in Pisces. And it's, when you hear him talk, it's all about faith, all about faith, all about faith, all about faith, right? We had the faith, we had the faith, we had the faith. There's something to it. They call him Saint Nick, you know, because he like pops up around December every year, like the last 2 years, to, you know, to save the Philadelphia Eagles. But there's more to it than the sort of the seasonal reference. He's got kind of a saintly quality. You know, 2 games ago, this guy from, who was it? It just plowed him in the chest. Big time. Who were they playing? It's the final game of the season, and they had to win it. Was it Green Bay? I know it wasn't Green Bay. Anyway, they had to win this game, and they did. They won the game. Oh, it was Washington. I think they were playing Washington. And this guy just plowed him right in the chest. It just knocked the crap out of him. He got up, he went to the sidelines, Going to bring another guy in for a play, but he's got all this Earth, right? All this Earth, Jupiter and Taurus, Mars and Taurus, Capricorn, Capricorn, Capricorn. And, you know, he got back in the game. And even at the end of the game, you know, he said, well, it was a good hit. It was a clean hit. He didn't go off. He didn't yell. You know, there's something very placid about Nick Foles. A lot of it has to do with the Earth, but there's this faith thing. The other thing, too, is his coach, Doug Peterson, is also an Aquarius. So when you have two Aquarians getting together, and I think his son, I think Doug Peterson's SUN is right on Foles' Mercury. So it's like Foles is his brain on the field. But I really feel like it's this. I feel like it's this true node right here, the sextiles with this true node going to all this Capricorn stuff. It's his faith, man. His faith, the faith guides this guy. He's also pretty tough with, you know, Pluto in Scorpio and the sextile with Neptune and to some extent Saturn. He's not quite born on a full moon, though it's getting close, right? It's almost getting close to being full in Cancer. And it's opposing a lot of his Capricorn plans. So he's, you know, he's a sensitive guy, but it's also trining his Pluto. You see, when you get into Moon Pluto trines, that's very intuitive. That's like super intuitive. And being able to like sense things and feel things, like, you know, I would assume that when, like I used to play I played a little quarterback in high school. Wasn't very good, but I played a little quarterback. And you have to intuit, you know, sort of the space, I mean, you know, between you and another person. And some of that is spatial, right? So it's like you're, you know, you're kind of approximating where somebody's going to be in the distance and getting the ball there. But I can tell you also that that quality also happens to be visceral, right? It is a visceral quality. You feel it. You can feel that connection. It's intuitive. And I think this plays a role with Foles, this trine from the moon to Pluto, being able to kind of feel into that moment or feel into a situation. He's got some challenges, right? But the only challenge he really has is, you know, Sun square Mars, that's a challenge, but that's a challenge you kind of want in some ways. You know, I'd rather have Sun square Mars than Mars square Neptune in a chart any day. And then he's got the square from Mercury to Pluto. That's an interesting square. But if you master your mind with a Mercury-Pluto square, you're unshakable. Nobody can, you know, because what do squares do? I mean, squares are there so we can get a handle on them and, you know, basically become their master. Do you think Nick Foles lets any errant thoughts come into his head? No. Or at least he does his best not to. And I'm sure he learns on the power of his faith in order to do that. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring up his chart because I thought, why does this guy do so well at this time of year? Clearly, it's Capricorn. And last year, he was in the Super Bowl, which happens in February. And there may be a chance he could be back in the Super Bowl again. You know, if he's back in the Super Bowl again, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to see a lot of people convert to Christianity, especially in Philadelphia, man. You know, I'm going to church. I'm going to church. We won the Super Bowl 2 years. I mean, this is a team earlier in the year that was on the rocks, man. Totally on the rocks. And this guy, Nick Foles, go get him, Nick. He's a good guy. Really good. You know, you want to root for a guy like this. All right. Let's check back in with the chat room here. I know it's a sports post, but what can I say? What can I say? Too funny. I was just at a friend's house. Football was in the background as my other friend was doing our astrology charts. It comes together, right? Matt says, how would the arrest of the CEO from the Chinese 5G company play into the chart? Oh, that's an interesting question, Heather. That arrest took place in Canada, didn't it? Right? Didn't they arrest that person in Canada? I think we'd have to look at the Canadian chart in some ways. But I would think that it's probably Saturn in the 8th house or 9th house, rather. I'd say Saturn in the 9th house. That's a good question. But it's funny because I think they arrested that person in Canada. And Canada has like a number of charts, right? Provinces and country. Okay, so I want to bring up, what time is it? 9:12. I'm going to be going for a little over an hour and a half. I'm going to bring up, one more chart tonight. This is a really interesting chart. At least I thought it was. And I was going to give you guys kind of a test, but I'm just going to talk about the chart. So this is the chart of Jan Wenner. And Jan Wenner was the guy who published Rolling Stone magazine. It was a very influential magazine, right? It changed. There were two magazines back in the 1960s and the late 60s and 70s and even 80s, but mostly the 70s. It changed music. It was Crawdaddy and Rolling Stone. And Rolling Stone was sort of the bi-monthly Bible of the culture. You'd always want to see who was on the cover of Rolling Stone, and the articles and up and coming artists. And it was a really important piece of the culture, whether you agreed with it or not. It doesn't really matter, right? It was there. So Jan Wenner was the publisher of Rolling Stone, and he was a very slick guy, Jan Wenner. And I just looked at his chart and it was like, bingo, look, ninth house publishing, Sun, Venus conjunction, ninth house, Capricorn. Did he always play by the rules? Very doubtful, right? Square to Neptune. But he's also really into writing, right? Writing, ideas, Gemini. He made money off of writing and ideas. I used to work for a company, and we wound up buying. There's some good language, Robert. We wound up buying rollingstone.com. I worked for a .com. We had all this money, right? And you had to spend it. You had a year to spend this money. If you didn't spend it, you'd lose your money. So we decided that I didn't have anything to do with it. They said, "Oh, let's buy rollingstone.com. Let's buy it because it'll be a really good property for us." Because a lot of people go to rollingstone.com. Well, maybe they did. Or people were still at that time, buying the magazine. But the way that Jan Wenner wired the deal, he won that deal. He totally won that deal. Like, we got to use the name. We got to do a few things here and there, but we had absolutely like zero clout over that world. Like, we really didn't own that property. We were like leasing it from, even though they paid buyer prices, really we're just leasing it from them. That's the way the deal worked. And you can tell, right? He came out on top. Sun Venus conjunction right there, Capricorn, and the square to Neptune, Libra, negotiation, relationship, worked out for him in that deal for sure. But he made money off of ideas, made money off of writing and properties. Clearly, he made a lot of money off the sale of the website. And if you look at Wenner physically, he kind of looks like a Taurus rising. There are two types of Taurus rising people. There's like, the spectacularly handsome or very attractive version of Taurus rising ruled by Venus. And then there's the kind of the more physical sort of utilitarian farm version of Taurus rising. That was, here, let's find you a picture of Jan Wenner. You'll see what I'm talking about. He's not like he's an unattractive guy, but he's the different version of Taurus rising. I'll show you. So you can get a visual. Yeah, he's looking better now. When he was young, hey, no, I'd say I'm wrong on this. I'm wrong on this. Okay. Let's see. Here he is. This is when he's gotten better. I think he's had some work done. So when he was younger, all right, I'll show you when he was younger. Okay. Here, let me pop this up. Grab this chart here. Hold on a second. By the way, Taurus rising people tend to have really, really thick hair. Really thick hair. Here we go. All right, got it. I grabbed it. All right. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Hold on. Let's go. All right. Okay, so let me do this, and let me pop back in here and do this. So this is Jan Wenner when he was young, and he was starting off as the editor of Rolling Stone, and he's got that thick, sort of Taurus. You know, they can have really thick hair, and he managed to maintain his hairline, but he's got a wide face. I wouldn't say he's not handsome. Wouldn't say that, but he's also got kind of that earthy sort of, kind of vibe to him. As he got older, I think he wound up actually sort of growing into his visage a bit more, his persona a bit more, and made that shift from sort of this, more sort of thick, physical, less refined version of Venus. As he got older, he gets into the more refined version of Venus, for sure. I'll show you another picture of him when he was young. Okay, sorry. Bolted out of there. Let me do this. There we go. This is actually kind of an interesting exercise, right? And how the persona or the ascendant can shift. Okay, so let me do this. And we're talking primarily about Taurus and Venus, right? Okay, so here's another picture of him. Still has the thick hair, wide face. Again, earthy. Maybe that's part of the times, right? It's the 60s. It's the 60s. All right. To me, this is kind of garden variety, physical, more on the utilitarian side, Taurus rising. This is not kind of the Venus dominated side of Taurus rising. Keep that picture in mind, and I'll show you where Mr. Wenner evolves to. Same guy, right? That is the Venusian version of Taurus rising. And again, it has to do with the times in a lot of ways, because I don't know when this was taken, but it's clearly not the 1960s where it was, cool to kind of look a certain way. Earthy. He was the earthy personification of Taurus rising. That's what he was, right? Earthy. That happens to be the Venusian version. That's the money version of Taurus rising. That's not earthy. That's materialism. Not bad. I'm not making a comment on it, but it's kind of the anti-earthy, right? Or this is elevated earth. This is the Capricornian version, the Capricornian Venusian version of Taurus rising. Okay. Let me check in with everybody again, see how you're all doing. Kind of an interesting little journey, right? Into the physiognomy of Jan Wenner. All right. Let's see. What am I doing here? Let's see. I think. Oh, God, I keep losing you guys. Hold on. It says I think I'm the farm version. Laugh out loud. The John Deere of rising expressions. Mysterious Moon says, notice they took out the Super Bowl winning quarterback Foles, and the Eagles did garbage until they put Foles back in. It's true. I mean, they did it, but they did it at the same time they did it last year. And what's interesting is the other quarterback, Carson Wentz, happens to be a Capricorn. Let's see. Yes, it did. Oh, good. Who away? Okay. Let's see. What else? What else do we have here? Howdy, 3:30 a.m. So I am late or early. Happy New Year. Sticky marks. And so he says, are mutually time traveling laws of physics are mutually exclusive, or I may have to find some new laws to break. Do you guys see that video clip of the kid teleporting into that interview in England? Do you guys see that? It was totally bizarre. Totally bizarre. I don't know what to make of it. This woman's being interviewed. All of a sudden, you just see this kid like, blip, he just pops into the screen. How does that happen? Is it like a chroma key thing or something? Or is that like are we dealing with like a glitch in the matrix? It's very odd. Very, very odd. All right, I think I'm gonna get on out of here. You know what I'm gonna do? I gotta go grocery shopping. It's the best time. The best time to go grocery shopping is on Sunday night because nobody's there. So that's what I'm gonna go do. Hey, thank you everybody for showing up. It's a nice show tonight. Anybody else there? No. Yes, I must go. Hi, Amanda. Amanda Palmender. Amanda, I was just going to come up with a dumb joke. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. It had to do with the word commander. Commander Amanda Palmender. It sounds like something from Oscar Wilde. All right, I'm out of here. Hey, listen. Thanks, everybody. Tomorrow, 15 minutes of flame. I'm sure I'll be talking about something. And in the meantime, you got this new moon, man. Drop into it. Get into where you are. Be here now. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. It's always a pleasure being with you. You can find me at robertphoenix.com. That's my website. I do personal readings. If you would like to have one, I'm at your service. Until we meet again next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll see you then.